Hey guys, so this is about 9.4, and 9.4 has a lot of different equations that mean the same thing. And in 9.4, we talk about something called the derivative, or another phrase for that is just slope from college algebra. So the limit is all about the y value, the derivative is all about the slope. And technically, we've already been finding the slope. With the very first homework problem you get, you've done all of this, but we just didn't know what it meant. So all three of these of your first homework problem, you should be able to do already. We just don't know what the point of it was. And I'll tell you that in a minute. Hint, it's the derivative and it's the slope. Okay, so let's look at this first problem from your homework. It says the graph to the right is from y equals f of x equals 8 minus x squared. So first off, the reason they have that y and that f of x equal to each other is because it means the same thing. So, and it says, and then they give you a picture, and then it says find the following: f of 2 minus f of 1, blah, 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 blah. Hopefully you didn't get the negative one in your homework, but if you do, it'll be okay. Okay, so first let's look at my graph, and I think I'm going to maybe highlight the x and the y-axis because I can't tell where they are. So the x-axis starts right here, okay, and then the y-axis, darn, I think I cut it off, but it's right here. Okay, so now that we have this labeled, it'll be easier to do this part A. Okay, so when it says f of 2, that means we look at the graph when x is 2 and we write down the y value. So that whole f of 2 thing from part A and f of 1 from part A, that means 2 and 1 are your x values, and we want to find the y values. So let's go to 2 on the x-axis, and it's right here. That's 2. And then if I go up to the curve, oh, there's that point that they were talking about. This point is 2 to the right, up 1. So that point is 2, 1. So f of 2 is equal to 1. Let's find out what f of 1 is. We're going to go to the right 1 and then go up until we reach our curve. Oh, there's the curve. And that point is to the right 1, up 4, I think. So f of 1 is equal to 4. Okay, if you had negatives in these parentheses, then that means you would have to go left and then up to your curve. Okay, so let's do part A. Part A says f of 2. Well, we just found that. It was 1. So instead of f parentheses 2, we just write 1. Minus f of 1 was 4. So I just write minus 4 all over. And then on the bottom, the f's are gone. This basically just says 2 minus 1. And we get negative 3 on top over 1 on bottom, or negative 3. And that negative 3 describes the slope of this line that crosses through 2 points of the curve. And the slope of this special line is rise over run. So it's kind of like you have to rise over run negative 3, or you have to drop down 3 and go to the right 1. That's what that negative 3 means. It's called the average rate of change, or the slope of a secant line. We'll talk more about that later. Okay, now let's look at this part. Part B. The only thing, we already have f of 1. It was 4. Now we just have to find f of 1 plus h. So we're not looking at the graph anymore because h is not on this curve. Instead, we're just doing paper pencil work. So let's find f of 1 plus h. to find f of 1 plus h, we take that 1 plus h and plug it into my f equation. My f equation is way up here at the top. Y equals 8 minus x squared. Okay, so I'm going to plug in a 1 plus h wherever this x is. I don't have to write the y equals anymore. I can just write f parentheses 1 plus h equals 8 minus parentheses 1 plus h close parentheses, and then a tiny 2 in the air. Okay, now we're just going to figure out what this 1 plus h squared is real quick. It's going to take a second. So 1 plus h squared means it times itself. So I'm going to take it, 1 plus h, times itself, 1 plus h, and then I'm going to multiply this beast. Kind of like FOIL. If you don't know what FOIL is, it's your natural way you multiply. Naturally, we would multiply 1 times 1. And that gives us 1. Naturally, we would multiply 1 times h. And that gives us positive 1h. In math, you put the number before the letter. In sides, h times 1. And in math, you put the number before the letter. So that's another plus 1h. Last, h times h. When you multiply 2 letters together, their exponents go up. So we get h squared. Okay, now let's write all this out side to side. I got 1, plus 1h, plus 1h, plus h squared. Okay, then 1h plus 1h, that makes 2 h's with a 1 plus still in the front and a plus a h squared on the back end. Okay, but that's not the answer. That's not even the answer for f of 1 plus h, because we're still missing the 8 from the very beginning. So let me bring it down, 8. We're also bringing down this minus. But then this minus applies to the whole 1 plus h squared, all of it. So I'm going to put parentheses around everything I got from that 1 plus h squared, as in the 1 plus 2h plus h squared. Okay, now let's distribute that negative. What does a negative do? It just changes your signs. So you get 8 minus 1. I should have written smaller. This 2h is now minus 2h. This h squared is now minus h squared. Then that combines to 7 minus 2h minus h squared. And all of that was for f of 1 plus h. Okay, so I ran out of room. Poop. Okay, this over here, what we did was for part A. Let me just, and then let me do part B right here. Okay, so part B said we were supposed to find f of 1 plus h. Well, we just did. So we're going to put what we just did on the top left of a huge fraction bar. So here's my huge fraction bar. And on the top left, we're going to put what we just got. 7 minus 2h minus h squared. Woohoo! Okay. Then the problem says minus f of 1. Well, minus f of 1, I think we already know f of 1. It was 4 from part A. So I'm just going to say minus 4 because f of 1 is 4. And then the rest of the problem from part B says all over h. So let me put all over h. And then now let's combine like terms. I think the only like term we can do is 7 minus 4. So I still have a huge fraction, but something's different. Something's weird here. really don't want to have to do this all over again. 8 minus 1, 7. Okay. On this problem, only use the graph for part A. Maybe I have a bad graph, or maybe I copy and pasted the wrong picture. I'm not sure. But this thing that I did on part B where I just plugged in that 4, let's not do that, because I think it was a mistake and I really don't want to do this whole problem again. So anyway, let's not plug in 4. Instead, remember how we found f of 1 plus h? Let's just find f of 1. And then we'll plug that in. So, I don't know, maybe I copy and pasted the wrong picture, or it's scaled differently or something. But let's just find f of 1. To find f of 1, we plug in the 1 into your equation up here, into 8 minus x squared. Only we write 8 minus 1 squared. And 8 minus 1 squared, let's see, 1 squared is 1. So 8 minus 1 is 7. Okay. That's the number I want us to plug in for f of 1. I don't know what happened with my graph. I must have done the wrong one. But this 7 is f of 1. So I'm going to put a 7 where that f of 1 is. And it should have worked with the graph, but I think I copy and pasted the wrong graph. Okay, so instead of this 4 right here, it's supposed to be a 7. I'm not redoing this whole video. Golly. Okay. All over h. Okay, now let's combine like terms. The 7s cancel because there's a 7 and a minus 7. So you just have negative 2h minus h squared all over h. Because the 7s cancel out. And whatever you get subtracted at the back end should always cancel out. That's how I knew I was wrong. Okay, the last step is we're going to cancel an h. So if I cancel an h from everything, the h on the bottom cancels with the h from the negative 2. And it cancels with the squared. And just makes an exponent of 1. So it's like this h on the bottom cancels out 1h from each thing on the top. And we just have negative 2 minus h. And hey, that's the answer to part B, negative 2 minus h. Okay, let's look at part C. You're probably thinking, oh wow, this is a really long video already. But part C is just like part B. Look at it. The only difference is it says limit as h approaches 0. So for part C, all we have to do is take what we got in part B, for real, negative 2 minus h, and then plug in a 0. So negative 2 minus 0. And holy gatos, that gives me negative 2. Yay. Okay, so, only use the graph for part A for now. It was supposed to work with part B, but I think I did the copy and pasted the wrong thing. Okay.